She thought she had me trapped. Every night, she cranked her music at 2 a.m., stealing my sleep, laughing in my face when I begged her to stop. But what she didn't know was that I was building the perfect trap. A trap that didn't just shut her up, it broke her routine, shattered her pride, and left her begging me for peace. This is a dramatized adaptation of a Reddit post shared for entertainment only. If you've ever dreamed of getting the ultimate revenge, hit that like button. Today's story is one of the longest, most jaw-dropping paybacks you'll ever hear. And trust me, you'll want to stick around to the end. When I think back on college, there are a lot of memories I cherish. Late-night study sessions, inside jokes with friends, coffee-fueled mornings in the dining hall. But when I think of my dorm neighbor Sarah, all I remember is noise. Sarah wasn't evil. She wasn't cruel, but she was loud. Loud in a way that colonized space that didn't belong to her. Every night, usually around 1 or 2 a.m., when the rest of us were winding down, she was winding up. Her stereo would kick on, bass rattling through the walls, the kind of music that doesn't just play in your ears, it drills into your chest. At first I thought it was a phase, a couple of nights of celebration, but it became her thing, every night, without fail. And it wasn't just the volume, it was her attitude. If anyone asked her to turn it down, she'd laugh it off, toss her hair, and say, "Relax, it's college." That was her catchphrase. Relax, it's college. And maybe once or twice I could have laughed along. But when it's every night, when you have 8 a.m. classes, when your head pounds from lack of sleep, it stops being funny real fast. The worst part was the powerlessness. I'd lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, pillow pressed over my ears, counting down the hours I had left before morning. 4 hours, 3, sometimes 2. I'd imagine myself walking into my exam with bloodshot eyes, brain foggy, trying to recall formulas that now felt like gibberish. If you've ever had a neighbor who made you feel trapped in your own home, you know the kind of helplessness I'm talking about. One night, before a massive exam, I reached my limit. Around midnight, the walls started shaking with her music again. I sat there in bed, heart racing, thinking, I can't do this, not tonight. I got up, walked down the hall, and knocked on her door. She opened it with that ever-present smirk, red Cello cup in hand, music blaring behind her. "Hey, neighbor," she shouted over the bass. I forced a polite smile. "Sarah, I've got a huge exam tomorrow. Could you turn it down just a little, please?" Her grin widened. "Sure." For a split second, I thought maybe, just maybe, she understood. But the moment I closed my door, the music got louder. So loud, the vent rattled. So loud, my picture frame shook. That was Sarah in a nutshell. The queen of sure, followed by the knife twist. And that night, lying in bed, I felt something inside me begin to change. It wasn't just anger anymore. It was something sharper. Resolve. If you were in my shoes, how long would you have lasted? A week? A month? Drop your guess in the comments before you find out how long I put up with it. The weeks that followed were a blur of exhaustion. I dragged myself to class, guzzled coffee, faked my way through conversations with professors. I stopped being present with my friends. I was living in survival mode, all because one person decided her midnight fun mattered more than my sanity. Sarah, on the other hand, thrived. She strutted through the dorms like she owned them, earbuds hanging around her neck, bragging about the epic parties in her room. She'd wink at me sometimes, as if to say, "You can't touch me." And she wasn't wrong. What could I do? The RA gave her warnings, but they bounced right off. A couple of students tried to confront her, only to be laughed off. One girl down the hall cried after Sarah mocked her for being a grandma who can't handle college life. Sarah's confidence only grew. My resentment deepened. Every night became a psychological battle, my body begging for rest, my mind calculating how little sleep I could function on, my heart racing with helpless rage. One night, I actually whispered to myself in the dark, Why me? Why do I have to suffer while she gets to laugh? There was no answer, but the silence after the plea planted a seed. Sarah loved the night. She lived for it, but she hated the morning. Everyone knew it. She bragged about sleeping till noon, called herself allergic to mornings. And that's when it hit me. If she was going to steal my nights, then I was going to steal her mornings. That thought sat with me like a secret, a weapon I hadn't unsheathed yet. I didn't act on it right away. I wanted to be sure. I wanted to savor the shift from powerless to powerful. And when I finally did, everything changed. By the time midterms rolled around, I wasn't just tired, I was unraveling. You know that feeling when your body is so drained, you almost forget what rested feels like? That was me. Coffee wasn't cutting it. My notes looked like scribbles. My hands shook when I tried to write. And Sarah, she was relentless. She had the smug routine down. Music cranked up after midnight, laughter spilling into the hall, the same fake apology when anyone knocked. The night before my biggest exam, I actually sat at my desk with my head in my hands. I whispered, I can't do this anymore. It wasn't a figure of speech. It was a surrender. And then I snapped. Not in a loud, dramatic way. Not smashing things or storming her door. No, my breaking point was quiet. A dangerous kind of quiet. I looked over at my little Bluetooth speaker, one I normally used for study playlists, and for the first time, I didn't see a gadget. I saw a weapon. I thought about Sarah bragging that she couldn't wake up before noon, about how mornings were her kryptonite, about how she laughed when she saw me stumble to class half dead. And that's when I realized I finally had leverage. That night, I lay awake, music blaring as usual, but my mind wasn't trapped anymore. It was planning. I whispered into the dark, tomorrow it begins. Be honest. Would you have broken sooner? Or would you have waited until the perfect moment? Let me know in the comments before you hear how far I took this. The morning after my exam, I set my alarm for 6:30 a.m. Sharp. When it went off, my body screamed at me to roll over, but my will was stronger. I grabbed my Bluetooth speaker, queued up the cheesiest early 2000s pop songs I could find. We're talking boy bands, bubblegum choruses, songs engineered to drill into your brain whether you liked it or not. I pressed play. I placed the speaker directly against the thin wall Sarah and I shared. Then I sat back at my desk, sipping coffee, and waited. At first, nothing. Then I heard it. The groan, the shuffle of feet, the door opening. Her hair was a mess, her eyes squinting against the fluorescent hallway lights. She looked like a vampire dragged into the sun. "Are you kidding me?" she snapped. I smiled, feigning innocence. "Relax, it's college!" She stormed back into her room, slamming the door. Day 1, victory. But here's the thing about revenge. It's not just about the strike. It's about the consistency, the relentlessness, the slow erosion of your target's comfort. So the next day, I did it again. 6:30 a.m., pop music against the wall, coffee in hand. She stumbled out again, this time angrier. "Seriously, stop!" I tilted my head. "Why? You don't stop at 2 a.m.? Her face turned red. She opened her mouth, then closed it. She had no comeback. Day 2, silence reclaimed. Day 3 was when the begging began. She pounded on my door. "Please, I have class later. I can't deal with this." I opened the door just a crack, met her bloodshot eyes, and said the words she hated most. "Relax. It's college." The look on her face, priceless. But here's the catch. Revenge isn't always smooth. There were close calls. One morning, the RA walked by while I was blasting music. He paused, eyebrows raised. My heart nearly stopped. But he just shrugged, probably thinking, hey, at least it's not 2 a.m. Another time, my speaker died mid-song. I scrambled to plug it in, terrified Sarah would think she'd won. But by the time the music returned, I realized something. I didn't need perfection. I just needed persistence. Day after day, morning after morning, I chipped away at her pride. Would you have kept it going for a week? A month? Or would you have stopped once she started begging? By the end of the week, Sarah was broken. She stopped staying up late. She stopped blasting her music. She walked past me in the hall without a word, her headphones tucked away, her smirk erased. And you know what? I didn't even need her apology. The silence was apology enough. But I wasn't done yet. I wanted to make sure it stuck. So on day 7, I waited. Alarm set, coffee ready, speaker in hand. 6:30 a.m. came, and I did nothing. I let the silence hang. Sarah cracked open her door, peering into the hall like a prisoner unsure if the guard was gone. When she realized there was no music, she exhaled, shoulders slumping in relief. And from that day forward, she never dared blast her stereo again. That week wasn't just payback. It was transformation. The girl who once strutted through the dorm with unchecked arrogance now moved cautiously, quietly. Her door, once the epicenter of chaos, was just another closed door. Her friends even started to notice. I overheard one of them joke, "What happened to your late-night parties?" And Sarah snapped, "Shut up." Her pride had taken the hit. Her reputation as the life of the party had dimmed. But the true climax wasn't her humiliation. It was my liberation. I slept deeply, peacefully. For the first time in months, I woke up refreshed. I walked into lectures with clear eyes, raised my hand, nailed answers, and actually felt like myself again. The silence wasn't just golden. It was mine. And the best part? Sarah was the architect of her own downfall. The very thing she used as her weapon, noise, became the thing that destroyed her power. Poetic justice. The weeks that followed were blissful. I rediscovered normalcy. The dorm wasn't perfect, but it was peaceful. Other students noticed too. The girl who once cried from Sarah's mockery gave me a muffin one morning. No explanation, just a quiet, "Thanks." The RA smiled more. The guide 2 doors down nodded when we passed. An unspoken acknowledgement. You fixed it. And Sarah? She was never the same. She still had friends, still went out, but the smugness was gone. The queen of chaos had been dethroned. Looking back, I've asked myself, was it too far? Did I enjoy it too much? Maybe. But revenge doesn't always mean ruin. Sometimes it's about balance, about teaching someone the lesson they refuse to learn any other way. Sarah loved nights. She hated mornings. So I gave her mornings, until she finally respected nights. And in the end, I didn't just win silence. I won back my control, my peace, my life. Have you ever waited for karma to finally hit? Was it weeks, months, years? Tell me in the comments. And if you love stories where karma comes full circle, subscribe. Join the community that knows patience isn't weakness. It's the setup for the perfect strike. Because sometimes revenge doesn't roar. Sometimes it whispers. And in my case, it whispered at 6:30 a.m. sharp.